What's going on, everyone? This is Chris on Around the ATL on SportsVisions 92.1 FM in our 12th week of Around the ATL on SportsVisions. Happy to be here as usual on the TuneIn app if you're listening. And also make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube page where you can watch us live during the show. Tonight's show is brought to you by Southern Classic Transportation. As you can see there on the bottom of the screen, those watching live, you can also call 404-291-0150. Ask for Dennis. Courtesy and comfort unrivaled. They're the best limo service in Atlanta that gets you where you need to go to your destination, wait for you, take you back home. They're very comfortable, very safe. Make sure you hit them up. Our other sponsor is IMTMWorldwideImages.com. You can call 706-393-8426. They just had a very successful photo shoot for a corporate account, Twin Peaks Restaurant, actually. So make sure you hit them up for your photography needs. Don't forget to visit the IMTMWorldwideRadio.com website for everything around the ATL and other shows on IMTM Worldwide Radio. Our contributors, make sure we mention them, Jamal Price of Price Design Club, who actually created the Around the ATL logo. Artist Ram One and producer Calcutta, who created the theme song that you heard earlier in the show. Miss Yolanda Elder Strong, who's been helping us out. And again, quick shout out to some of my fans, Josh, Martavius, Deja, Tyreek, Sequoia, Sherry, Hallie, and also I'll go ahead and I keep throwing them in there. I know they're not listening right now. Lily and Sierra, give them a shout out as well. So let's go ahead and, one more thing. Announcement. SportsVisions 92.1 FM will be the official home of the Columbus Clingstones baseball team, the AA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves. So you'll be hearing our show come after their games on Thursday nights from now on. So tune in for that. Let's go ahead and bring in our co-host for tonight, Mr. Jordan Jackson, who's out and about in Atlanta. How you doing, Jordan?
What's going on, Chris? Glad to be here on SportsVisions 92.1 and join you guys for another episode of Around the ATL. Want to give a shout out to my guy, John Weaver, a listener of ours who's lived in Georgia but now lives in Vegas, but he still keeps up with Atlanta sports via Around the ATL. With that being said, sir, let's talk about these Atlanta sports.
So first and foremost, we're going to talk Atlanta Braves baseball. Now, their schedule, I should say their record just changed. They're 2-8 to start the season. Jordan, what do you have to say anything about the Atlanta Braves right now?
It's been a very tough start, Chris. Obviously, we faced two very good teams. The first two series in the Padres, the team that eliminated us from the postseason last year, and then the all-billion-dollar payroll Los Angeles Dodgers that basically have assembled an all-star team, the best all-star team that money can buy, onto a roster. But yet and still, you hope to take at least, 2 or 3 games, or at least 3 really out of those first 7. Fortunately, it didn't go that way. Started out 0-7. The starting pitching actually wasn't bad in those 2 series for the most part. It was really the hitting was not coming through, and the bullpen let us down tremendously. As we mentioned last week, we've had some changes. Hector Neris has been let go. Jesse Chavez has also been let go. And so that has led to a little bit better performances from the bullpen. Thankfully, the Braves were able to get a win against the Marlins, but then turn around and got shut out by the Marlins the next game. And I, honestly was happy to see that the third game of that series was rained out and rescheduled for a later date, because I'm hoping the Braves will be playing much better ball at that later date when that makeup game comes around. Now, beating the Phillies 7-5 was definitely a positive, especially considering that Chris Sale gave up 5 runs, in the game. And obviously the starting pitchers are still trying to ramp back up, but certainly beating a Phillies team that is 7-3, including the loss to Atlanta, was a positive development. Don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we try to take every little positive because right now we need it. It's a very disappointing start to a season that you needed to have a better season than last year for sure. And no matter what the time frame of Strider and Acuna coming back is we need to play better overall. And I think all the players realize that. But 2-8, we're not there yet. So we'll see what happens next. Let's go ahead and get into our next team in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Magic, the Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, that is, and the Magic. Those are the four teams that the Hawks are going to be playing to end the season. The Hawks, if they won all four, would have won the division, clinched the seventh spot in the East, gotten home court for the play-in against the Magic, and if they beat the Magic again in the play-in, they would have played the Boston Celtics, the defending NBA champions. If they don't make the seventh spot and fall to eighth, they still have to beat Orlando, but on the road, then play the winner of the 9-10 matchup, then finish as the eighth seed, and then have the Cavs in the first round. And I've said that the Hawks could win a first round playoff series against Boston or the Cavs if everything goes right. They can't miss easy shots. They can't give up 65 points in the paint. They can't give up 28 fast break points or 25 threes in a game, obviously, right? And they have the pieces, but everybody has to be consistent. I've said this, right? You can't have a double-digit game one night and then have 6 points in another. It can't work. But guess what? The Hawks lost that first game against the Magic that I just mentioned. Another loss by 7 points or less, as Trae Young has 28 and 10, Okongwu has 30 and 14, but we get 8 points from Reese Shea. We get 6 points from Mo G. We get 9 points from Niang. Terrence Mann played 30 minutes and gave us 0 points. But worse than all of this now, people, Snyder keeps proving he cannot adjust to what's happening in a game. And I have pretty much given up on that. I think it's time at the end of this season, we have to make a move. And since somebody let go of their NBA champion head coach today, let's get Mike Malone up in here and see what he can do with the Atlanta Hawks. That's just my opinion. Jordan, what do you think, sir?
Well, I'm kind of torn when it comes to Quinn Snyder because on one hand, the Hawks have not had a great history of incredible head coaches. And so while he may be one of the better ones we've had in recent years, ultimately, when you look at the results just aren't there. We're yet to finish 500, and we'll fail to finish over 500 again this season under Quinn Snyder. And when I just look back in hindsight, I honestly think that we hired the wrong guy. I was listening to a comment from Houston Rockets coach Ime Udoka, who basically said that he coached his team to play physical, to play rough, and you make the referees adjust to you. And as you know, Chris, that's always a philosophy I've had, and I've said this, throughout the years on Around the ATL. If I had a team, I would have them come out the first game of the season playing as aggressive as possible. And yes, you may get in foul trouble the first few games. You may have a few guys foul out the first few games. But eventually the refs aren't going to call every foul on you. You're going to get the reputation for being a physical team. And that's what they'll adjust to that mantra accordingly. So I do think we got the wrong guy. As you mentioned, Trae and Onyeka played great against Orlando. In addition to the stats you mentioned, Okongwu also had 4 assists and 3 steals, but he didn't have any blocks. Trae, with his 10 assists, only turned it over 3 times, but yet we turned it over 18 times as a team. Unfortunately, sir, I think that Zachary Ricochet has kind of faded away at the wrong time and has probably lost the Rookie of the Year race to Steven Castle with his performance over the last 3 games or so. And Dyson Daniels, he was decent, but he only had 1 steal. I did block 2 shots, but that's 2 steals below his average. So, and like you said, just not enough production up and down the lineup. 30 minutes of playing time with 0 points is just horrendous. Like, we cannot afford that with the team we have currently. So, I hate to say it, Chris, but our chances of being the 7th seed and getting a home playing game are on life support, sir. What we need to happen now in order to get the 7th seed, we need to win out, which would be against Brooklyn, against the 76ers, and against Orlando, and the Orlando game is in Atlanta, so it is possible. And we need Orlando to lose out, which would be a loss to us. a loss to Indiana, and a loss to Boston. Now, those things definitely can happen. So it's not over with yet. But one more loss by the Hawks, and it is over. And one more win by Orlando, and it is over, Chris.
And see, my thing is with this SportsVisions 92.1 FM. Thanks for everyone listening on the TuneIn app, and make sure you subscribe to the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel. Is this was a must-win game, and our coach can't get everybody on board in a must-win game to be like, where's the sense of urgency? Again, you know you're going to get 25 and 12 out of Trae Young. Okongwu has been steady the whole month and a half, right? Where is everybody else? You mentioned Zach basically losing probably the Rookie of the Year opportunity there, but Terrence Mann was 0 for 5 tonight. Niang was 4 of 10 tonight. LeVert was 4 of 11 tonight. You see what I'm saying? I mean, at a certain point, Vic was 1 of 2, had 3 points. Just the other night, he was balling away from 3, wasn't he? And then we get 3 points tonight. You see what I'm saying? It's stuff like
Inconsistent.
that. It's and then it's like, well, why can't you figure out the lineups enough to say we got to get production out the starting lineup every night at the power forward position? What is it with that position? But the other thing that you mentioned, I believe, was, and it kind of goes back into the sense of urgency as far as preparing people to play and adjust against what you are doing rather than vice versa. Because again, all teams double Trae Young. We don't double team nobody. We just let them do whatever they want. How many points? I'll go ahead and tell everybody. Paolo had 33 points, 12 of 24 shots. Wagner had 22 points, 8 of 20 shots. Wendell Carter Jr. had 17 points tonight. And then out of nowhere, KCP had 15. He wasn't doing nothing the whole game, and all of a sudden he ends with 15 points. And we lost his game by 7. It doesn't make any sense anymore. And as you mentioned, yes, it looks like we ended up getting the wrong guy. Unfortunately, it is what it is. It is not because Trae Young is a coach killer. It's a matter of we can't get an actual NBA head coach that can coach. And this is why I keep saying we need better bench coaches. Why can't we have a defensive coach on our team? Why can't we have a big man coach? Who is our shooting coach again? I don't know. But at the end of the day, we don't have a staff. And all these other teams that are winning have bona fide staffs up and down. And it's just so frustrating to see all this talent being wasted. Yes, we've had injuries, but injuries are no excuse. For a period of time, the 6th spot was in our grasp. It was there, and we've lost it. And like you said, we're barely hanging on with the thread now. So it's just disappointing how this season is kind of wrapping up. But the season is not over. Okay, like I said, whether or not we finish 7th or 8th, we could still get in, and we still have a shot to win a 7-game playoff series. As much as this looks bad right now, we have had the nights where we can blow out anybody in the NBA, right? And we have the record of the Eastern Conference. We have our games against teams 500 or better to prove all of that. So it's just upsetting that we lost this game as we did. Go ahead, Jordan.
It just seems like we play great against the top teams, especially in the Eastern Conference. But the teams that are closer to us in the standings, the Orlandos, the Miamis, even the Chicagos at times, we don't seem to play as well against. And I just can't quite seem to understand that. And the other thing is, I am just absolutely perplexed by Quinn Snyder's rotations at times. And like I mentioned, Zachary Ricochet kind of fading out, but tonight he actually wasn't that bad. I mean, he scored 8 points. He was 3 out of 6 from the field and 2 out of 3 from 3-point range. I mean, he did have 3 fouls, but that's only halfway to fouling out. And he was a +1 in the plus minus, which tied for the team lead. But yet he only played 16 minutes for the entire ball game. But you leave Terrence Mann out there for 30 minutes to go 0 for 5 and score 0 points. I can't figure out the logic of it at all,
right
Chris.
There I'm telling you, that's a fireable offense right there, sir.
Yeah, I just can't figure out the logic of it at all. So, we got to find some consistency in these last 3 games. We need to run the table. We need to give the fans of Atlanta a home game in this play-in to try to cheer this team on, to the playoffs. But unfortunately, if we have to play on the road, I don't have confidence that we'll win that first playing game. Now, that could work in our favor if we lose the first playing game, then turn around and win the next one, which would be in Atlanta if we do finish eighth. And then we would end up claiming the eighth seed and playing Cleveland rather than Boston. Because I'm honest with you, I'd much rather see Cleveland that doesn't have a track record of success in the playoffs versus the defending champions. But that's also playing with fire, though, facing a win or go home playing game as well.
Two more things before we get to our halfway point of the show on SportsVisions 92.1 FM. The Atlanta Hawks shot 41 threes tonight, 34%. We hit 14 of them. And just to prove that Okongwu should have been starting a long time ago, he was 8 of 8 at the free throw line tonight, at 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and he was 4 of 7 from the three-point line. Clint Capella can't do any of this, folks. What are we talking about? We were wasting time. It's just disappointing. We might come back a little bit later and talk a little bit more Hawks as we get
One
ready.
more quick note, allowing Orlando, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, to make 14 out of 34 for 41%. It's just unacceptable. And at one point, late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, they were shooting 50%, 12 or 24 from three. We've got to do better on our perimeter defense and tighten up that three-point line.
Exactly. And one person can't do that. It has to be the whole team. So as we get ready to go into our second half, we have a little bit of college basketball to talk about, as well as Atlanta United and Atlanta Vibe. So don't go anywhere. This is Around the ATL on SportsVisions 92.1 FM.
You're listening to Around the ATL with Chris and Jordan. We'll be right back with more Atlanta sports talk.
And we are back. Thanks for everyone joining us on the TuneIn app on SportsVisions 92.1 FM. This is Around the ATL as we go into our second half of our show. So college basketball season is officially over, but let's go ahead and talk about what happened previous to that. The Auburn Tigers, their season tragically came to an end last week, eliminated by the eventual national champion Florida Gators, 79-73. Florida really outplayed the Tigers in this game. But the Tigers don't have anything to hold their heads down on. They finished 32-6. They were right there all the way down to the bitter end. Jordan, any brief thoughts on the Tigers season?
They had a great season. They were the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament. If my memory serves me correctly, without looking it up, I believe they were 15-3 in SEC play for the season, the toughest conference possibly in the history of college basketball. So, they had a great season. Unfortunately, they fell to the Gators, and Walter Clayton Jr. was just spectacular for the Gators. Auburn actually led that game at halftime, 46-38 by 8 points. But Clayton Jr. scored 34 points, and he was the first player with 30-point games, both in the Elite Eight and the Final Four, since Larry Bird did it for Indiana State in 1979. According to ESPN stats. So that's quite impressive. I'll be honest, I am a Gator hater because I am a Georgia Bulldog fan through and through. I still hate the Gators from the days of the old ball coach Steve Spurrier, just terrorizing and just, taunting, Georgia and the Georgia fans. But, SEC's team did take home the title, and that's kind of fitting, being that the SEC was clearly the best conference in college basketball all season long, Chris.
Yeah, it would have been a big disappointment if one of the SEC teams didn't actually win at all. So shout out to Florida, even though I don't really want. I really hate saying that right there. But anyway, let's move forward before something bad happens. The Atlanta Vibe. Now, again, a reminder: in the very near future, we're going to have the MVP of last year in the Pro Volleyball Federation for the Atlanta Vibe, Leah Edmond, on Around the ATL. We're working on it still here on SportsVisions 92.1 FM. So all the volleyball fans out there, make sure you tune in for that. And actually, as of tonight's broadcast, they're actually on the road tonight in San Diego against the San Diego Mojo. They remain in second place, 14-8, in a massively successful season. Their next home match will be April 26th at Gas South Arena in Atlanta. So if you still haven't been, it's not too late. Make sure you go. Jordan, let's talk some Atlanta United soccer.
Yes, Chris. First of all, you listen to the Sports Visions 92.1 FM. Thank you for joining your folks on Around the ATL. Quick shout out again to Southern Classic Transportation. Word on the streets is if you call them, they might just pull up on you in a 2025 SUV. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing out there. With that being said, sir, Atlanta United FC and FC Dallas had a 1-1 draw. Miguel Almiron, for the second straight game, scored a goal. His goal came in the 17th minute. It was a very defensive match. Only shots on goal was 2 apiece for each team, and the total number of shots was 11 for Atlanta United and 9 for FC Dallas. And I mean, the fact is, Brad Guzan only had 1 save because he only faced 2 shots on goal. 1 he saved and 1 he didn't. And that draws Atlanta United's record to 2 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. And so next week they will play Philadelphia United in Atlanta. It'd be nice to get a win and bounce back there to get some momentum going, sir.
Yeah, it sounds like they're right now still in the middle of the pack. It's still an early season though, and if anything, they're much more competitive than last year, bar none. So I'm excited about how this season could end up with everything new, with Miggy being back and new management and everything like that. So we'll see how that turns out. Atlanta Falcons football. Now, sneak peek, we do plan on having an NFL draft show very soon. But what I wanted to talk about is the offer being re-signed. So, question, is this more proof that the Falcons are having their worst offseason of all time? Or will all the moves and non-moves made this offseason prove to be genius moves and we'll end up with the 10th best defense for 2025? Jordan, what do you think, sir?
Well, Chris, I think the parallels between the Hawks and the Falcons oftentimes are just uncanny. Because oftentimes with the Atlanta Hawks, we see a lack of moves, but we're told that what's going to make us better is the players we already have are going to improve internally, and that's what's going to take us to the next level. Well, that's the same thing we're hearing from Raheem Morris and the Falcons currently, that these guys we drafted last year that didn't get a whole lot of run, like Rook or Roro, who showed a few flashes, but didn't play a lot early in the season, then got injured, like Brandon Dorless, defensive tackle out of Oregon, defensive tackle / defensive end out of Oregon, who didn't hardly play at all last year. You know, these are probably 2 of the most prominent names we're hearing we're expecting a big improvement from. And I'm just not confident in it. I am confident that the offense will be good with Michael Penix Jr. and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and Drake London and Darnell Mooney. I'm purposely not going to say Kyle Pitts. But I just don't think this defense will be even average to offset that or to complement that offense. I mean, rather than offset. And so, you know, unfortunately, it's going to be hard to win because defense does still win championships. You know, defense does still matter. But unfortunately for us, defense just doesn't seem to matter very much, and especially pass rush. The offense struggled pretty mightily last year. Maybe some of it was scheme, but I don't think the scheme's going to change very much when the head coach is a defensive guy, and he's going to have a major say in what we run defensively, Chris.
And that's the scary thing. Can we rely on our offense to score 35 points every game? Because that's basically where we would have to be to have a chance to win on a regular basis as of the moment. And like you said, the concentration of not building a defense has been going on since Matt Ryan years. So why are we going to duplicate that for a second year quarterback who's really actually good, but we're going to leave him on the hook too and have excuse me, have him be blamed game after game after game for not being able to win games because our defense can't get a stop? It's going to be kind of worrisome. And that's what I'm afraid of this year, that we're just going to have another wasted season. Go ahead, Jordan.
Real quick note, I have heard a rumor out there that the Atlanta Falcons are thinking about trading up to select Jalen Walker out of UGA in the first round. I would love for Walker to fall to Atlanta, but I'm skeptical of trading up for a rookie pass rusher if it's going to cost us next year's first round pick, because I honestly don't want to end up giving away a top 5 or a top 10 or even a top 15 pick next year, just to get a guy. Now, obviously, he's got to hit if we do something like that. I think there's enough good pass rushers that we could get one if we stay put at 15. But I'm also concerned because I keep hearing about us working out and talking with the offensive lineman, Kelvin Banks Jr. And last time we heard about a major workout and meeting with the prospect at the last minute, it was Michael Penix, and we ended up drafting him in the first round. And if we actually don't go defense in the first round, it's really wanting the edge, but I'll take a defensive tackle or even a corner. It'd be such a disappointment to me, Chris, because at this point, we'll be going even further than Thomas Dimitroff did when it comes to building an offense-heavy roster. And unfortunately, that's the type of team the Falcons have had most of my lifetime. And with the exception of that defense that went to the Super Bowl in '98, they had Big Chuck Smith, the pass rush guru, and that front forward, Lester Archambault and Travis Hall, and those guys. We really haven't had a formidable defensive line majority of my life, Chris, and I'm sick of it.
It gets to a point where it just doesn't seem like winning is important in Atlanta. And when we do our draft show here on SportsVisions 92.1 FM and also on Around the ATL on the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel, you'll see some of that because we'll go back in time, way back in time, and we'll show some of these draft picks over the years and moves that weren't made that could have been made to make this team a lot better than it is. Because guess what? The Falcons still don't have a Super Bowl. We have 2 Super Bowl appearances, period, in history. It's not good, y'all. So as we wrap up tonight's show, we want to say thank you again for everyone who's been listening for a period of time on Around the ATL on SportsVisions 92.1 FM. This is our 12th show. Again, make sure you're subscribing to the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel and listening on the TuneIn app. Make sure you support SouthernClassicTransportation.com. As I mentioned earlier, the best limo service in Georgia, really, actually. And also IMTM Worldwide Images. Make sure you give them a call, 706-393-8426. Make sure you let both of them know that Around the ATL sent you. Any last words, Jordan?
Just want to thank everybody for listening to Around the ATL on Sports Vision 92.1 FM. Want to give a shout out to Hawks Twitter and the guys who I communicate with in the group chat. I appreciate you guys for listening in with us as well. And also want to give a shout out to my mom, Diane, who's going through chemo treatment and holding strong. And last but not least, I want to thank God for giving me this breath that I breathe to talk about these Atlanta, these Georgia sports that I love. Peace up. A-Town down, baby.
Don't forget, every Thursday, Sports Visions 92.1 FM. Until the next time, always be watching, always be listening Around the ATL.